The missed train. Rain fell like broken glass against the metal roof of Lagos Central Station. The night smelled of roasted corn, diesel, and the kind of loneliness that follows you when you pretend to be fine. Ozioma pulled her coat tighter, clutching a small, fading photograph, her father's face frozen mid-laugh, the only thing she hadn't thrown away when he died 7 years ago. 7 years since she'd stood by his hospital bed and turned away before he opened his eyes. The loudspeaker crackled. The last train to Enugu departs in 10 minutes. She sighed, wiping her wet face. She couldn't tell if it was rain or tears. She wasn't even sure why she came. Maybe it was the voicemail her sister left that morning. "Ozzy, it's Christmas Eve. We are lighting candles for Dad tonight. You should come home." Home. A word that now felt foreign. She walked to the ticket counter. "One ticket to Enugu, please." The officer shook his head, chewing gum slowly.
"Last train's full, ma'am. You'll have to wait till tomorrow."
"Tomorrow," she whispered, half to herself. "There won't be a tomorrow if I don't fix this tonight." Her voice broke. The man looked away. People brushed past her, lovers, families, travelers with purpose. She had none. Just a suitcase of guilt and a photograph of what could never be repaired. Then she heard it, a soft voice behind her.
"You look like someone who shouldn't miss this train."
She turned. An old man stood there, dressed in a long grey coat, his eyes silver and kind, too kind. He held out a ticket, edges worn, like it had waited years for her fingers.
"Take it,"
he said, smiling faintly.
"Some journeys choose you."
Before she could ask who he was, the whistle blew. She ran, heart pounding, suitcase thumping against her leg, rain slicing through the air. The train doors were closing. She leapt, half falling, half catching herself, and stumbled inside. The doors shut. Silence. She caught her breath and looked around. The carriage was empty, not a single passenger. The air felt still, warm, almost familiar, carrying a faint smell of old perfume and fried plantain. Her father's favorite. Ozioma frowned, calling out softly. "Hello? Anyone here?" No reply. The train jerked forward, gliding into the night. Through the window, Lagos blurred into streaks of gold and black, then slowly melted away into mist. She sat down, clutching her chest as a strange calm washed over her. The loudspeaker buzzed. Static at first. Then, a voice, slow, deliberate, echoing like it came from another world. "Welcome aboard, Ozioma." Her stomach dropped. She froze. No one knew her full name anymore, not even her boss, not even her friends. The lights flickered. Outside the window, shadows twisted into shapes that looked like memories. And somewhere in the distance, beneath the hum of the engine, she could have sworn she heard her father's laugh. The hum of the engine wasn't just a sound, it was alive. Steady. Rhythmic. Like a heartbeat that belonged to someone remembering. Ozioma leaned against the window. Lagos had vanished, swallowed by a soft white fog glowing from within. The rails no longer clanked against iron. They whispered. The world outside was a blur of light, and she couldn't tell if the train was moving forward or backward, or both. Her reflection blinked at her, eyes wide and wet, lips trembling. Only, it didn't blink with her. A cold shiver crawled up her arms. She whispered. "What kind of train is this?" No answer. Just that low hum. And a faint scent of something she hadn't smelled in years, blue film aftershave. Her father's. She turned sharply. The next carriage door slid open on its own, sighing like it was tired too. And there it was, our old family living room. She froze. The flickering lantern, the cluttered wooden table, the small TV with aluminum foil on the antenna, and the Christmas tree her father built out of broomsticks and colored paper. It was all exactly the same. She could even hear her mother's soft voice from the kitchen, singing to an old Onika Onwenu song. Then, the laughter. Deep, familiar, unfiltered. Her father sat cross-legged on the rug, holding a screwdriver. His shirt was half-buttoned, his glasses tilted, face shining with sweat and joy as he tried to fix the TV.
Come here, Ozzy baby. Help me turn the knob.
Ozioma's lips parted. Her knees went weak. Papa. He looked up, and for a moment, their eyes met. Really met. She could see recognition there. Time stood still.
You grew up fast.
He said, voice like honey melting through static.
Faster than you needed to.
She covered her mouth. You can see me. He smiled, that quiet smile that always said more than words.
The train only shows what the heart's still holding on to.
Her heart ached. Why now? He didn't answer. He reached for the old radio, turning the knob gently until static turned into a soft melody, Sweet Mother. That song. The one he played every Sunday morning. The one that used to make her roll her eyes as a teenage. She sat on the floor beside him, or tried to. Her hand passed through the rug like Miss T. He looked at her once more.
You've carried anger so long it started carrying you.
Her tears came before her breath. I didn't mean to stay away this long, Papa. She couldn't finish. The words broke like waves against her throat. The room began to fade. The laughter, the song, the smell of palm oil and dust. Papa, please don't go, she cried. Not yet. I have so much to say. His voice lingered, almost fading with the last note of the song.
Say it when you forgive yourself, Ozzy.
Darkness swallowed the room. She stumbled through the next carriage, this one colder. The walls hummed like a distant choir. It was her university dorm. Her younger self sat on the bed, crying, holding her phone. Then her own voice, cutting through time like glass. You were never there when I needed you. Don't call me again. The sound of the phone slamming down echoed like thunder in her chest. Her father's silence followed, that awful silence that lasted 7 years. Ozioma fell to her knees. Her scream came out as a whisper. I didn't mean it. God, I didn't mean it. The air grew heavy. The lights flickered red, then dimmed into an angry pulse. Then the intercom buzzed. Next stop, the station of regret. Her reflection in the window looked older now, eyes shadowed, face pale. Why are you showing me this? She begged. And then, that voice again. Soft. Familiar. Her father's.
Because forgiveness is not a destination, Ozioma. It's a journey. And yours has just begun.
The train rattled, carrying her into a fog thicker than before, a fog made of tears she never cried and goodbyes she never said. And somewhere in that fog, she heard him whisper.
Some trains don't move on rails, my daughter. They move through memory.
The station of regret. The train screeched to a halt. Not with the polite slowing of a passenger ride, but with the dragging, metallic cry of something ancient. Ozioma stumbled forward, clutching the seat to steady herself. Outside the window, there was no city, no village, just a vast stretch of fog, glowing dimly beneath a colorless sky. A single wooden sign stood by the tracks. The paint was peeling, but she could read it clearly. The station of regret. A chill danced down her spine. The door slid open with a hiss, and cold air rushed in, sharp, thin, like the kind that bites and heals at the same time. She stepped out. The platform stretched endlessly, crowded with silent figures. Men, women, children, all with tired eyes. Some were holding photographs. Others clutched letters. One man knelt, whispering to a suitcase as if it could hear him. A child sat near the edge, drawing circles in the dust with her finger, whispering, "I didn't mean to break it, Mama." Ozioma's chest tightened. Everywhere she looked, there was pain wrapped in silence. She walked past a woman in a wedding gown, its lace soaked in tears. The woman was staring at an empty chair beside her. Next to her sat a soldier, polishing his boots, over and over, whispering names under his breath.
We all end up here at some point.
A voice said. Ozioma turned. It was the old man from Lagos Station, the one who had given her the ticket. But now, his silver hair shimmered faintly, almost glowing under the pale light. "What is this place?" she asked. Her voice shook. He smiled sadly.
This is where the things you try to forget come to rest. The station of regret, a waiting room for those who can't forgive themselves.
Ozioma swallowed hard. So everyone here, carrying what they wish they'd said, what they wish they hadn't. She looked around again, and something inside her broke. How long do they stay?
Until they forgive.
He said simply.
Not others, themselves.
She stared down at her trembling hands. All her life, she had thought forgiveness meant saying sorry to someone else. She never knew it could also mean setting your own heart free. The old man gestured toward the far end of the platform.
Go there. There's someone waiting.
Her pulse quickened. She followed his direction through the fog until she saw it. A bench. And sitting there was her father. He looked exactly as she remembered him, shirt slightly unbuttoned, a small scar on his chin from when he fell off his bicycle, that same gentle smile that could stop her mid-rant. Ozioma froze. Her voice broke before it even became sound. "Papa." He patted the space beside him. She walked slowly, as if the air around her might shatter. When she sat, the bench didn't creak, it sighed, like it understood. They sat in silence. Then he said softly.
You were angry because you thought I didn't try. But I did, Ozzy. I tried every day to reach you, even when words failed.
She bit her lip, tears rolling freely now. I know. I just didn't know how to stop being angry. You left before I could tell you I was sorry. He turned to her, eyes full of a peace she'd never seen before.
And I left before I could tell you I forgave you.
She buried her face in her hands. I don't deserve it.
None of us do. That's why it's called grace.
He whispered. Something cracked open inside her, not pain this time, but release. All the years of silence, guilt, and what-ifs melted into tears that burned but cleansed. The fog around them began to lift, glowing gold at the edges. The faces on the platform started to smile faintly, a soldier laying down his boots, the child hugging the air, the woman in the gown finally standing. Ozioma looked up at her father one last time. Will I see you again? He smiled. The train whistle blew again, long, low, and final. The old man's voice echoed through the air.
All aboard, forgiveness accepted.
Ozioma stood, wiping her tears. The platform was empty now. The fog shimmered like sunlight through water. She took a deep breath and stepped back onto the train. And for the first time in years, her heart was light. The return. When the train pulled away from the station of regret, the sound was different this time, softer, almost melodic. Like the world had exhaled with her. Ozioma sat by the window, her palms open on her knees, as if still catching the warmth of her father's last words. Outside, the fog began to thin. The grey melted into color, the first colors she'd seen since the journey began. Golden rays of sunlight spilled across the tracks. Birds, real, living birds, flew alongside the train for a few seconds, their wings catching light like tiny mirrors. Ozioma smiled. Not because everything was okay, but because, finally, she was learning to let it be. The speaker crackled again. Next stop, home. Her breath caught. She stood and walked through the carriages, but they were no longer the same. Each one glowed faintly, walls breathing like living hearts. The memories that once haunted her now played softly like a family album, her childhood laughter, her mother's cooking, her father humming off-key to Ebenezer Obey. The pain was still there, but it had changed shape. It was no longer sharp, it was gentle. A reminder, not a wound. As she reached the final carriage, the air grew warmer. She smelled something she hadn't in years, rain on red earth. The train slowed. Outside, the landscape unfolded like a dream she'd almost forgotten, green hills, white skies, and the tiny village station she used to visit as a child. Her throat tightened. It was Nsaka. Home. But it couldn't be, this place had changed years ago. Yet here it was, untouched by time, bathed in soft morning light. Children ran barefoot, women carried baskets of oranges, and someone was roasting corn near the platform. Ozioma's heart pounded as she stepped toward the door. The voice of the old man echoed again, calm, reassuring.
Home isn't a place, Ozioma. It's a moment that waits for your return.
The doors opened with a hiss. She stepped out. The air wrapped around her like a hug she'd been missing all her life. The sky smelled of wet leaves and hope. Every face she saw was familiar, her neighbors, her cousins, people who had long passed on. They waved as if she had never left. At the end of the platform stood her younger self, a little girl with dusty feet and eyes full of wonder, clutching a small notebook. The girl smiled shyly. You finally made it. Ozioma's lips trembled. What are you writing? A list, the child said. Of all the things we wanted to forgive. Tears slipped down Ozioma's cheeks. She crouched, looking her younger self in the eyes. Did you finish the list? The girl nodded. Almost. I left one blank, for you. The train whistle blew again, long and gentle. When Ozioma turned back, the little girl was gone. In her place lay the small notebook, now complete. On the last page, written in soft handwriting. I forgive me. She pressed it to her chest, whispering. Thank you, little me. The old man appeared at the edge of the platform, smiling.
Every journey ends where the heart is ready to begin again.
The sky brightened. A soft breeze carried the scent of her father's cologne. Ozioma took one last look at the station, the people, the hills, the sun, and whispered. I'm ready. The world shimmered, and the ground beneath her seemed to dissolve into light. Then everything went silent. The last stop, the first thing Ozioma felt was warmth. Not the kind that burns, the kind that heals. It pressed gently against her skin, like sunlight filtered through curtains. She opened her eyes. She was back at Lagos Central Station. The rain was gone. The world glistened with the freshness that only comes after a long storm. Commuters hurried past her, laughing, talking, living. The normal chaos of life had returned. For a moment, she wondered if she had dreamed it all. The fog. The train. Her father. Then she felt something in her hand. A small golden ticket. The edges shimmered softly. The same words were etched across it. Final stop, home. She pressed it against her chest, closing her eyes as a tear slipped down her cheek, not from sadness this time, but relief. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her sister. "We are lighting candles for Dad at 7. Come home, Ozzy. Please." Ozioma smiled. Her heart felt lighter than it had in years. She looked at the ticket again. The gold had begun to fade, leaving behind a faint outline of her father's handwriting. "I'm proud of you." She covered her mouth, choking back a sob. A kind stranger walking by touched her arm.
"Madam, are you okay?"
She nodded, smiling through her tears.
"Yes. I just caught the last train home."
He laughed softly, not understanding, and kept walking. Ozioma stepped outside. The city looked different now, brighter, gentler, like someone had turned the sharpness down. Children splashed in puddles. A street vendor sang an old Christmas tune. She stood there, breathing in the scent of roasted corn and wet earth, the smell of her childhood. Then she took a deep breath and began walking toward the bus park, toward her real home, toward her family. Every step felt new. She passed a boy helping his mother carry her basket. A young couple laughing over suya. An old man feeding pigeons. Everywhere she looked, she saw small reflections of love, the kind her father had always tried to show her, even when she didn't see it. As she crossed the street, the wind picked up, cool and soft, brushing her cheek. She smiled. It smelled like blue film aftershave. She whispered,
"I know you're here, Papa."
The wind swirled once more, a quiet whistle. It sounded exactly like a departing train. She looked up. For a split second, she thought she saw it, the silhouette of a silver train gliding across the clouds, leaving behind a trail of gold dust. And then it was gone. Ozioma wiped her eyes and whispered,
"Thank you for waiting."
She turned toward the road, her suitcase rolling softly beside her. The city pulsed with life, every light a heartbeat, every sound a memory. And as she walked, she finally understood. Some trains don't take you to new places. They take you back to yourself. They end, but not really. Because everyone, somewhere, has their own last train, a chance to forgive, to return, to start again.